first. So the guy is fantastic. His name is Gordon Matchett. You can read about him online there. And he's just one of many, many people down the coast who've been running this program since 2000. So about 17 years the main program's been running. They expanded to Burnaby, and they've expanded to Trail. So they have 3 Take a Hike programs, and their goal is to expand, 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 expand. Not asking the city for money, especially not at this point. What we're asking for is just your feedback, your questions, and you giving me sort of an accurate likelihood that the city would support a program like this. And that will tell me whether to carry on working on it and move us to sort of a second stage of engagement with the program. The second stage will involve a very thorough assessment of the community to support this on an ongoing basis. They have a very robust assessment tool and a very sort of intensive kit that they give you. And they have apparently some fundraising help as well, that they help with sort of larger donors that are farther away from us. But we have as a community a job to do if we want to do this, which is get coordinated in the next 18 months and follow the steps, which there's 6 of them that they have. And the first one is raising awareness and engagement. The second one would be achieving the approval process, which is coordinating with them enough and following the steps that they ask us to take to prove to them that the community will sustain this on an ongoing basis. I'll stop for a second.
That's great, yeah. Mr. Laidlaw. Thank you. One of the things that you said to me when we met was the success rate at this point is around 80%?
80% graduation rate.
Yeah.
And we have to keep in mind these are kids that are less likely to graduate. At least that's who I plan on targeting. If you're doing okay in school and you're getting there enough to not be in trouble, you might still be struggling and perhaps you're still at risk. So I wouldn't want to exclude you. But I think the real power in these programs is who you're targeting. And, you know, a selection process, I'm sure it's not on the website, but I'm sure they're going to coach, you know, any community that expands with this. They're going to coach us as to how to select the people who would get the most out of it. And when you think about it, you change the trajectory of a young person. When they're here and going this direction is the worst scenario, a tiny change down here earlier on makes for a big distance from that worst case scenario later. So if you think of it visually like that, that's what we're trying to do here. And we do that in other ways in this community very well.
Great. Thank you very, very much. Any comments or questions? Councillor Norgaard.
Thank you, Jim. When we were speaking, you said there was an approximate, there was an estimate of how much operating capital we would need per year.
Yep.
And I'm very much in favor of this program. One of the things I know is taking high-risk kids out on the land is very, very effective, both in getting them to learn, but also to cope with some of the traumas in their life. So for me, this is a no-brainer. And the other thing that I know is one of the ways to get good economic development in your community is to invest in social capital through graduation rates of your young people. So can you just give an idea of the estimate of yearly operating capital needed?
Yeah. The website uses very specific language, which I really like, in the neighborhood of. So perhaps we can create the size of neighborhood that we think we can manage. The neighborhood of $200,000 a year. For most of that money goes into the full-time therapist, the adventure learning specialist, who's a highly trained person who is there to purely get people as a group the experience they're supposed to have in the safest possible way. Keep in mind as you think about worst case scenarios and the kind of adventures kids would really like to have, that this program and this foundation have accomplished solving the issues in terms of liabilities and safety. Insurance, all of it. They've done it already for 17 years. So they can teach our community how to do that and our school board. So $200,000 a year sounds like a lot, till perhaps we put a merit spin on that, and I think there's a whole lot of energy and great, at least so far, great feedback in terms of the possibility of being able to run this program for 20 students. Even that number, I'm hoping, is negotiable with the main program in Vancouver. But that's what they say with their website. The therapist, the adventure learning specialist, a school teacher who's already employed by the district, those 3 adults plus a youth worker, all 4 of those people are always out with the kids outside, and all are in the classroom with the kids when they're in the classroom, except for the adventure guide. So,
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Well, I'm certainly supportive of addiction programs, and especially for teenagers. I worked for mental health, Northern Mental Health, when it was still a ministry department, so I'm fairly familiar with some of the programs that were available back then.
Yep.
And I think the industry has learned a lot over the last few years, but adolescents are the ones that seem to get missed a lot.
Yep.
And I think it's great that you're here trying that. I think it's great that you're here, but I'm also saddened to know that this is a community that needs it as much as we need it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a sad reality, but I'm fully supportive of something like this coming to Merritt. I would assume that your office then would be out of the school district. Is that what you're hoping to?
I think we're even so early in this process that creating an expression of interest, I've just taken that job on myself because it was spring break and I got on my computer. And I call all my friends in our professions and fields around town and consult with my boss in Kamloops. And she says, yes, it's part of your job. Community development is part of my job. It's just a smaller part normally. And so a home base, I don't think there'd be any problems establishing a home base for this.
Right.
I get free space at the Ministry for Children and Families for years and years now. Not sure if they would take part directly, but that isn't, not a worry at all.
Well, I
in
look
terms of
forward to this
space.
becoming very successful in the Merritt area.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor Christopherson?
You asked if you should continue, and I think you're getting the message that, yes, please continue on that way. I really like the idea that of a 3-way partnership with the foundation and the education system, but what I find really interesting is trying to get the community at large to buy into the process and to work with it, and all 3 projects that have been brought forward to us today seem to have some things in common, and I think Merritt's on the right track with supporting all 3. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you very much.
Spoken like a true teacher, right?
I have 3 siblings who are teachers, so I understand the language quite well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laidlaw. Keep us posted. Good luck with the school district, and obviously the council is very supportive of what you're doing, and if we can help, don't hesitate to give us a shout.
I sure appreciate it, so I'll use your words, put them in the right language that the foundation wants, and sort of give you an update on what the next step is. But
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
thank you.
Take care. Moving to point 6, unfinished business, mosquito control program. Excerpt, minutes, regular council meeting, February 14th, 2017. Letter from PWP Consulting Incorporated, Mosquito Controlling Program. Director of Engineering and Development, March 19th, 2017. Report file 2320.46. The recommendation that council resolves to receive this report for information. Seconded. Discussion? Councillor Prowl.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you know, I oppose mosquito spraying. I'd like to put a motion forward and see if there's a seconder.
No, you can only amend it.
Okay, amend it.
Okay.
Okay, amend it to read. $25,073 plus applicable taxes per year for 2017 with the option to renew.
You're one motion ahead of us, Councillor Prowl. That's the next one down.
Okay.
Any further discussion on council resolves to receive this report for information? Councillor Brown.
I'd like to know a little more about our RFP process, and in particular, how we evaluate projects. There was something in this report that said it's not normal practice to provide score sheets to the suppliers or the bidders. And I have to tell you, this is the first place I've ever worked where it isn't a normal practice. Score sheets are there to provide information to the suppliers to be able to get them to provide a better report in the following year. I don't know what information could be used against them. I don't understand that terminology. We've got another RFP information or another RFP process later on our agenda. And what I'd like to know is, do we have a process? Do we have a standard process for RFPs? Do we have a standard set of criteria? Do we have a standard set of weighted criteria? Is that similar for each and every RFP? Does it differ by department? Can you give me a bit of a rundown on that process? I'm directing that to our CAO. Oh, Sheila, okay.
Ms. Thiessen.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Brown. I can answer that. We do have, currently we have, for most RFPs, the criteria is different depending on the type of RFP. Obviously, when we're talking insurance, the criteria would be, the weighting would be different for different things compared to mosquito control. But the weighting and the criteria is always outlined in the request for proposal that's sent out to all the proponents, so they know quite clearly what they are, what we are looking for, and how they choose to submit their proposal. As far as standardizing and having round proposal, we are working towards bringing up more. The LGMA and GFOA have just put in conjunction with the AGLG, procurement toolkit, and we are starting to work through that and using those standard processes. So I hope that answers your question, sir.
So we currently do not have a process?
Well, we have an RFP process, but it's pretty generic, and there's quite different styles. So we need to, for depending on what you're tendering, if you're tendering or if you're doing an RFP, and then it depends whether you're looking for a loader or a pickup truck. You'll have different criteria. But we make it clear for everybody that is applying.
So do we have written policies or procedures on that?
There is a procurement policy.
Okay.
But it has been several years since it's been
Okay.
updated, so we will update it in conjunction with the new toolkit with the new standards.
Okay. And is this standard not to provide score sheets?
I'm not, that was Ms. Bird. I would not generally provide comparative score sheets. I would, when I've been involved in an RFP, I would talk to the individual proponent about why there was what they were lacking, if there was something specific. A lot of in the insurance one that we just got, all of the proponents said the information in the document is confidential and is not to be distributed. So it's hard to compare, to provide information without crossing those lines because it's proprietary information.
Except a score sheet just has.
Well, sometimes they have comments and other stuff on them too.
Okay.
So, but that's definitely something we can work into our process.
Okay. I had another question, but I can't think of what it was now. Local buying. Do we have anything in our procurement policy that talks about buying locally?
Well, there is some comment about buying locally when possible, but unfortunately you can't put that as a major weighting in your procurement policy depending on the larger projects especially. We have to be.
So is that a no?
We have to be transparent.
Yes.
Yeah. It can be a consideration, but it can't be too heavily weighted.
But we don't have it in our policy.
No, I think it does.
I think it says all things equal.
All things being equal, the preference would be for the local.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? All those in favor signify. Opposed? Carried and so ordered. Thank you. Moved and seconded that council resolves to accept the request for proposal, the RFP for the 2017-2021 mosquito control program from Duca Environmental Services Limited in the amount of $25,073 plus applicable taxes per year for the next 5 years, and that council resolves that the mayor and the corporate officer be authorized to execute the agreement form. Moved, seconded. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councilor Prowl.
Can I put forward a motion to amend now?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So I'd like to amend it to read $25,073 plus applicable taxes for the year 2017 with the option to renew.
So you're just saying 1 year?
Yes,
It already says 5 years at the top.
I know.
Well, you have to amend that too. It's contradicting itself, Councilor Prowl.
Okay. For the next
My
one.
suggestion would be that for the 2017-2021
Oh, I see, yeah. that's
be
what- yeah.
deleted and replaced with 2017 with an option to renew.
Thank you, Your Worship.
No, that's okay. Do you have a seconder?
I don't know.
No, you don't.
No.
Okay, on the main motion, any further discussion? Councilor Norgard.
I'm just curious if IHA has any requirements for the municipality to do mosquito control?
I can answer that one. Thank you, Worship, through to Councillor Norgard. No, IHA doesn't have any requirements for us to do mosquito control as far as I know.
Any further comments? Councilor Getz.
This would be, I guess, to the CAO. So, Sean, just a quick question. At the end of this mosquito spraying season, do we get a rundown of what was sprayed, where it was dropped, how much airtime there was, et cetera, et cetera? Do we get that, or do we not?
Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Getz, we absolutely do. There's an annual report every year, and if council's interested, I can make it available for your reading pleasure.
Thank you. Any further comments or discussion?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to reiterate that mosquitoes, as much as I and everybody else hates them, they are a major food source for our birds, our bats, our fish, our frogs, and our snakes. And that's why I oppose. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Brown.
I had another question. Was this for a 3-year plus a 2-year extension, or is this a full 5-year contract?
Thank you, Worship. I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I'd have to actually see the agreement form, and it's not in the package anymore.
Well, in line with the motion, to me, it says that we have a 5-year deal from 2017 to 2021 and renewed every year. And I'm sure there's something in it that says if we're not happy, we can open the contract. But my guess is it's a 5-year contract.
My understanding was 3 plus 2.
Okay.
I got that from the information provided by the other individual.
Mr. Bovin will find out for us, Councilor Brown.
It would make a difference in the wording on our motion.
That's why I said the wording tells us, or should be telling us that it's a 5-year deal. Councilor Getz.
I'm good.
You're good? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify. Opposed? carried and so ordered. Thank you. Notice of motion, Heritage. Councillor Brown made the following notice of motion at the March 14, 2017 regular council meeting, file 0546, recommendation that council direct staff to bring back a report outlining which of the city's buildings would be eligible to receive heritage status and the process for obtaining heritage status, and that the Heritage Committee be reestablished. Motion
I was
is
going to
moved.
say, I so move, yeah.
Seconder? Discussion. Want to turn your mic off, Linda, please? All those in favor signify. Opposed, carried, and so ordered. Thank you. Rocky Mountain Ranger 95th Anniversary, source of support for Rocky Mountain Rangers 95th Anniversary, Director of Finance and IT, March 21st, 2017 report, file 1851. Recommendation that council direct staff to fund the donation to the Rocky Mountain Rangers worth $4,000 from the city grant in aid budget. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify. Opposed, carried, and so ordered. That basically is concurring in what we've already done. Bylaws, nothing. Councillor, okay, we're done. Councillor Getz.
Yeah, I just want to, going back to the last one, what we've just given out the grant, I think we should all be aware that we only have $271 now left in the grant and aid. So we're pretty much done with the grant and aid. Somebody comes forward, the answer's pretty much going to have to be no. And I think that's where we should go with that grant and aid. I think it should be all used and depleted, and that's what it's there for. So unless somebody has a very small project, we're pretty much done, so.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Getz. Councillor Brown.
Could I have clarification on that? Because my understanding is at the end of the application deadline date, that the two funds get combined and they're called extraordinary funds at that point, and they can be distributed in any manner whatsoever.
Thiessen?
It's part of our policy.
Yes, your worship, through to Councillor Brown. That wasn't my understanding of the policy, and in the last year or so, we've always still even brought the extraordinary back and said whether it qualified for grant and aid or community initiative funding. So we do have funds still in the community initiative if something meets that requirement.
Thank you.
But either we do it or we don't.
Yeah, I haven't, it hasn't been done since I've been here, that they've been combined,
The policy reads that way.
does it? Okay.
Okay, moving on to new business, Policy Review Committee, 8-1, excerpt from draft, draft minute, Policy Review Committee, February 28, 2017, meeting file 0373, recommendation to council that the Policy Review Committee, that council direct staff to prepare an employee wellness policy to be brought to the Policy Review Committee for consideration. Move, seconder, discussion. Councillor Prowl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not sure on my question, but the employee wellness, do we not have one for the fire department? Is that my understanding?
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Prowl. That is a correct understanding.
So if we already have one, can we use that for the general employee wellness?
I'm not
So-
that familiar with it. We could take a look at it, see if it could be used as a template or something, but maybe we don't have to reinvent the wheel if something exists. That would be handy. Other communities have this as well. What we typically do is we'll look to Kamloops, Kelowna, Penticton, see what they're doing, take all their stuff, combine it, try to make it ours.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify. Opposed, carried, and so ordered. Thank you. City Social Planning Committee, 8.2, excerpt draft minutes, City Social Planning Committee, March 16, 2017 meeting, file 058, recommendation to council from the City Social Planning Committee that council approve the City Social Planning Committee developing a plan to gather community input as to perceived social needs and community priorities. Motion moved. Seconded. Discussion. Councillor Brown.
I'm not quite sure what they're looking at. We have we have a lot of reports, age-friendly report, a number of the reports that look at social needs. what would be the purpose in going back to the public and looking at more community priorities? I'm not understanding what we're doing here.
Councillor Getz?
So basically, and Councilor Norgard can correct me if I'm wrong, this is to go out and discuss not more of the senior plan, but the disenfranchise those who don't fall into the spectrum of the guides we already have, where we need to go. This would cost absolutely zero, except the time of the committee. And that is basically to find out, I mean, we meet as a group and we talk about a lot of things, but until you actually get to community input, and a lot of the people that we would be targeting don't want to fill out a form or don't want to be part of anything. So this is an on the ground deal to try and find out best what the social planning committee, where it can go. But I'll let Councilor Norgard continue.
Councillor Norgard?
So it goes a little beyond that. You know, put your.
What do you want? Thank you.
It's around gathering information from the community about what they perceive are the issues in the community and what their priorities are. Because we have a lot of needs in the community, and we need to know from the community what it is that they would like the city to prioritize. And yes, we have lots and lots of reports, and we can look at those, but they don't necessarily tell us what the person on the street thinks of as a priority for our community.
Councillor Christopherson?
Well, I support the idea of gathering community input. There's another committee that's I'm all involved with, which is the Healthcare Committee, and one of the recommendations of the group that met was to survey the community as to what their perceptions of what our healthcare is presently like and what they would like to have, what we can improve in the area and so on. And part of my brain was going, gosh, now how many surveys can we host at one time without burnout, or can we combine them in some fashion so that one survey will contain multi-questions? I just don't want to see us get burnout, but I support this one. I don't want to see the healthcare go down the tube too. So it's an observation, not a question.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Well, my understanding was the Social Planning Committee was to implement the projects and the information that we already currently had. So this would be something that would be needing to be initiated by council, and I'm not prepared to initiate this or support something like that, because I think we've got enough reports out there to deal with what we need to implement. And I think we need to get on with the job of implementing, not going back to do a community input thing. Perhaps once we implement a lot of stuff, we can look at community input, but I think it's, I think we need to get on with implementing our current plans.
Councillor Norgard?
I agree with Councillor Brown immensely. We need to get on implementing things that we already have, but we need to know which ones the city wants us to do. This is not asking to do a survey. It's asking council's permission for the committee to come up with a plan to get that input, whether it's going through all of the stuff that we've already got, whether it's combining onto something else. It's not doing the survey, it's just asking for permission to do the plan.
Thank you. Councillor Baker?
Thank you, Worship. I'm not a fan of reports and more reports that we don't sometimes do anything with. But in this case here, this is a council committee struck by the council, and I think that any report that our committee comes back with is valuable, whether it's redundant or whether it brings the same things forward. But I fully support what the committee wants to do. It's our committee, and this is what they want to do, and I think it's great. So I'm going to support this one.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify. Opposed? Carried and so ordered. Thank you. British Columbia High School Rodeo Association grant. British Columbia High School Rodeo Association request for extraordinary grant and aid. Financial Services Manager, March 21st, 2017 report. File 1851. Recommendation that council approves the in-kind extraordinary grant in aid of $1,120 for the British Columbia High School Rodeo Association for the use of the Civic Center on July the 9th and 10th, 2017, to be funded through the Community Initiative Fund. And that council directs staff to include a request for the BC High School Rodeo Association to apply during the fall grant and aid intake for future requests of this particular nature. Moved and seconded. On this one, Ms. Thiessen came to me today and informed me that one of the difficulties we're sitting with right now is that those dates are not available for the association to be able to use it for the rodeo. They tried to get the Fall Fair building, and the Fall Fair building said, well, we have a garage sale, big garage sale on that particular day. So what I would suggest we do is we defer this. I will get a hold of Fritz Myers, who's the person that's looking after this, and he's an executive with the High School Rodeo and a director for North America. And also I'll get a hold of the Fall Fair people and see if we can't work something out. So I think that we should just defer it to the next meeting and allow myself, and probably with the assistance of Ms. Thiessen, to see if we can help them get the Fall Fair to change their garage sale. Councillor Brown.
I think that's a good idea. On the other hand, I wanted to mention, Councillor Getz had mentioned that there's no more money in the fund after that last project that we just approved. However, the Merritt Country Run has canceled their plans, so there is just that much in the fund if we in fact were looking at.
That was grant and aid that you were talking about, wasn't it, Councillor Getz? Yes, it was. This is Community Initiative Fund.
Well,
Are they not different?
Yes, they are.
Councillor Getz.
it's in kind, it's after the fact.
It's your
It's called grant and aid.
So, Your Worship, just a quick question. If you do manage to get the Fall Fair building to change their date and they use the Fall Fair building, are we paying for the rental of the Fall Fair building?
That's why I said, let's leave it, let's find out, and hopefully, I don't know what they'll do or what they'll want, so.
Because I'll have a problem with that. Because if it's
We
a
don't know
city,
what it is yet.
if it's a city building, I'm willing to look at it, but if it's a non-city building, I'm not willing to look at it, no.
Okay, it might have to be just a straight grant. But let me find out what's happening. Councillor Prowl.
Thank you, Your Worship. The high school rodeo, is that date in stone?
Yes, it is,
Yeah, okay.
no question, yeah. Councillor Baker.
Yeah, Your Worship, I'm going to support what you said because I think we have been working with both associations for the past quite a few years, trying to get them to work together. And this is a perfect example of something very small, in my mind, of moving a garage sale. It's not something major, this far out. So I'd like to see the goodwill come through here because we've been working really hard to get it going. We're hearing from people that come and talk to us that this is what they want too. So I'd like to find out reasoning, so I support what you're saying.
Thank you. I'll give it my best shot. Councillor Norgard.
Is there not a motion to defer on the table right now?
No, I just suggested that, I suggested that we do that. There isn't a motion. Somebody has to make it. We can deal with it, but it's not going to go anywhere if we do, so. Councillor Christopherson.
Move to defer.
Thank you. Seconder. Any discussion? No, there isn't any. All those in favor signify. Opposed, carried, and so ordered. Okay, I will get on this hopefully as you said, Councillor Baker, it's time for them to do something. And this one's not a difficult one. Property insurance request for proposal. The property insurance request for proposal, Director of Finance and IT, March 22nd, 2017, report file 0670. Recommendation that council accept the proposal from Frank Cowan and Company Limited for property insurance coverage for 2017-2018 in the amount of $67,282 with the option to renew for the next 2 years. Move. Seconded. Discussion. Councillor Brown.
I don't know the details of the evaluation, but I would just to draw our attention to the fact that we have a local firm that's been there for a number of years. Now we're going outside of the city. I think if we're trying to keep the businesses going and make Merit thrive, we've got to start looking at supporting them. And somehow or other, we have to put in our procurement policy that buying local takes precedent over outside firms within reason. I mean, we have to come up with some percentage or something in which this should be a priority. As I said, I don't know what the details of the weights are or what the scores were, but I'd like to see that in our plans.
Thank you. Ms. Thiessen?
Yes, I can provide a little more information than in the report. The three quotes ranged from $71,000 to $60,000. The local quote was the highest quote, and when we compared the coverage that was provided for that price, the two other quotes provided much better coverages and more suitable for municipalities. They also, both of the other firms, well, the Municipal Insurance Agency Association and the Frank Cowan Company, both work with multiple municipalities. And unfortunately, as much as we try, we make sure our fleet's in town, we have done our property insurance in town. But it is important that we have good insurance coverage for a municipality, so it was looking at the proposals to have one that specifically knew how to insure our bridges and other things. Both those other ones were beneficial.
Thank you, Councillor
I understand that. Can I ask that that type of information be provided the next time, especially with the local provider that has been providing for a long time?
Yep.
That would be easy
Yep.
to read it and understand it. Thank you.
I also think on that, you know, all of us, each and every one of us have said it, support it, and Ms. Thiessen and Mr. Bovin both know that our preference is to use local contractors, local businesses with whatever we're doing, if they can supply us with the needs that we need for the city. And I think they've really tried hard to do that, so. And I hope they will continue to do that, but also, sometimes you have to look at it, as Ms. Thiessen has said, that the coverage was better and the price was better. So we have to look at that as well, because we're using tax dollars to do this stuff, so thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify. Opposed, carried, and so ordered. Notices of motion. Councillor Norgard.
So I have a whole list here, but I'll only put one out there tonight. My notice of motion is that the City of Merritt provide a letter of support for the Take a Hike program in the Nicola Valley, and further provide a liaison to the project when a steering committee is organized.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, you were going to put your hand up?
I did.
Okay. You only got it halfway, Linda. I wasn't sure.
I have two notices of motion. One of them is that we bring forth the Work BC project to the next agenda. And I have another one on secondary suites. If I can get this opened. Can't get it opened. The gist of it is that we, because there's so many, well, we have a need for secondary suites. We have a need for housing for not only we're at zero rental vacancy from what I understand. We have the Tnrd burn. We also have, in September, Trans Mountain coming with a need for a lot of rental places as well. And I'd like us to look at the possibility of reviewing our secondary suites zoning bylaws and putting more of an emphasis on enabling some of the current homeowners to be able to rent their suites, put secondary suites in.
So can you put that in the form of a motion?
Well, I've got it in the form of a motion, but again, I can't access the website, so
When you get it, like,
Yeah.
did you get it to Ms. Thiessen?
I can't access the Wi-Fi.
Or to
I
Carol,
guess.
I should say?
I'll send it to,
Ms.
who,
Ms.
Carol?
Fraser. Yeah,
I'll send it to Carol as soon as I get home.
you're hiding behind the screen there. No. Any further notices of motion? Mr. Bovin, I have two questions. First, or one question. Have you put out an RFP for the concession for Central Park?
Not for 2017, Your Worship. There was one last year. Nothing yet this year.
Okay, and have you put one out for a re-bid on the hangar?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay. Do we need motions to help you to do that for those two? I have another one, but I know you don't have it on that one, so.
No, that would happen regardless of a motion. That's just us
Okay,
doing what needs to be done.
so that's a signal that those two should go out?
I know
We
it's
don't have
high on
to
your
need
radar, yeah.
Don't need a notice of motion, okay. The other one that I think we need to have a discussion on, because it seems the airport is important to us, is to have a notice of motion that we have a good discussion on implementing a caretaker for the airport. Any further notices of motion? Thank you. Reports from council. Let's see, Mr. Baker, Councillor Baker, please.
It was just mentioned about Tnrd. I know my heart, and I think everybody here goes out to that major disaster that we had. I was very impressed with how our city staff, first of all, handled information to the public. I can't remember the exact ESM people that did their job. Ask Wellness stepping forward. It was really good to see that happened. Also, nice to see the street sweeping being done. It's a big plus. Being on the Air Quality Committee for years, that was one of the major things that was brought up every year. And I think we've improved that over the years by bringing 2 machines in, and I think it's successful. And I think our CAO, who used to be in charge of that department, for spearheading that. Enjoyed the meeting with Minister Thompson. I'm looking forward to the responses on our questions, and I'm hoping that once your worship gets those responses, you'll disseminate them out.
Definitely.
And I'm looking really forward to the budget meeting tomorrow night. Hopefully we can finish up a few things and get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Norgard.
So, and yeah, again, fire department, the emergency services, the entire community came together in a way that was absolutely typical of this place and makes me proud to be a Maritonian. And my heart does go out to the people from Tnrd. On March 16th, I attended the health planning meeting that Councillor Christopherson organized with the people from Princeton, and I'm very excited to see something perhaps moving forward in that, and us finally taking over and taking back what we can, rather than being dictated to. Also on March 16th, I attended the Social Planning Committee meeting. On March 18th, the meeting with Minister Thompson. On March 21st, I sat with Ms. Bird for a while to just get a better understanding of what the city's efforts are around water conservation and sustainability. On March 22nd, I attended the Irrigation and Drought Planning Workshop And on March 24th, I spent the morning with ESS, getting coffee and putting goodies out for the people who were removed from the Tnrd Manor. And that was a pretty traumatic day, but I'm also impressed by how people managed that. They managed it quite well, even though some of it was quite traumatic for people to hear. And that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Proud.
Thank you, Your Worship. On Thursday, March the 16th, I missed the Nicola Watershed Roundtable, and I did apologize. I heard about it right the very next morning. I had it written down for the next day, so I apologized. On Friday, March the 17th, I attended St. Patrick's Day at the Legion, and then the following evening was Maggie's 75th. Everybody remembers Maggie, bylaw officer? And on Wednesday, the 22nd, I attended that drought and water management workshop at the Civic Center, and it was very interesting. They explained the new Water Act, and basically everyone needs a water license now. And the Act has the power to reduce water consumption at any time based on stream flows. The monitoring well for the cold waters in Brookmere, and the other is by the library. The irrigation and drought products, they explained the amount of water that was needed and how often for various plants based on the root depth, the soil type, and evaporation. One example is that the grass needs 1.5 inches of water twice a week and never water in the heat of the day. I didn't stay for the afternoon session as it was mostly for ranchers and farmers. So just as a help, you can get these anywhere in town. You just stick this in the ground, you turn on your sprinkler, and you see how much water you've put on. These are the depth to see the moisture level. So I have already put this in, there's one on that side too, put these in the garden, and it is wet. So, and the temperature, 10 degrees. So all these are handy little tools you can get just about anywhere at a garden store or online. And on Sunday, March the 26th, I went out to, with a friend to Brookmere, and I saw our old water tower, but I didn't see the caboose because I thought it was out there. But what I did spot was the Rocky Mountain Ranger bus is out there in poor shape, and there's tons of snow out there yet to melt. I will attend the Gold Country AGM in Clinton in May. I'm carpooling with Will and Atelka, so it would receive, I don't have to put in a separate charge. And these Gold Country trail guides have just arrived, and if everybody looks at the Logan Lake one, that's pretty extensive trails compared to ours, which is currently the Tom Lacey Trail. But I understand that Will George is working on our trail system, which would be a great asset if we get that done. And I did attend that Tnrd fire and checked in on the Civic Center, and there was just an excellent effort going on. It was a terrible night. And I did have the unfortunate experience of being close to that young boy that was hit. And my heart goes out to the family, and I understand he will be okay. Reminder, it is Adopter Road this Thursday at 6 o'clock. If I could have a brief who's going to attend, so I would know how many, I would know how many garbage bags and sticks. So you two are, where is my Adopter Road page? Where am I here? Mike can come, Deanna, I have Linda, Kurt,
What time is it?
6 o'clock, 6 to 8.
6 o'clock. I have a meeting at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
I can show up for a little bit.
I'll be there, Dave,
I'm gonna do something tomorrow.
all right. And Neil,
I'll be there at 8 o'clock.
nice try. Okay, that looks good. I don't know if I need a motion for this, but I think that the city should be putting out some bear aware notices or something in the paper, because they're waking up. I haven't heard of a cougar yet, but anyway, these are safety guides, just even to remind people, you know, keep your garbage in and make sure your fruit's all gone, those kinds of things. Do I need a motion for that, or?
No, I think we do that every year. We do a thing on
Sort of.
bears and whatnot, do we not, Mr. Bovin?
Yeah, good enough.
Okay, just a reminder. Thank you.
And that's all I need. Thanks.
Councillor Getz.
Thank you, Worship. So we'll start off with the gas buddy prices. Merritt today, 111.9, Kelowna the same, Vernon 108.9, Kamloops 109.9, Vancouver 121.9, and Prince George 95.9. World oil is 48.37, up $1 since the last time we met. On the 16th, I attended the social planning meeting, and it was a good meeting and lots of good discussion. And then a little later on the same night, I went to the Museum Board of Directors meeting, and the new board was voted in, which is Tom Edwards as president, Angela Grenier as treasurer, Mary Charters as vice president, and I'm probably going to kill this last name. I think it's Donna Rolinis as secretary. The directors are Murphy Suchak, Norbert Grenier, and Jack Madriga. Guest speaker was a gentleman named Dion Kazas, who is a tribal tattoo artist, and he had quite an extensive display and presentation on skin poke and skin stitch, which is the old way of tattooing, the old needle and poke and stuff like that, which is almost every Aboriginal tribe around the world has their way of doing tattoos. They don't use the electric gun, they use needles and stuff like that. And it's pretty interesting because each tattoo tells a story if you know what you're looking for. The skin stitch is the ring of the land, and then the mountains. And most of the way they're able to tell where most of the tribes came from is because most of the tattoos that are on the people at that time and now today, which is being resurrected, was also on all their pottery. So they actually put their pottery designs on their skin. So it's very interesting, and he works with several of the Aboriginal artists in New Zealand, Hawaii, and he is one of the only, well, he's trained 6 every year to do this in Canada, but for a long time he was the only one to be doing it. It was very interesting to see it, and he says it doesn't hurt as much, but in the video it sure looks like it hurts a whole lot more because it's a needle with a string with ink, and he just sews it right through you. So anyway, but he says it doesn't hurt. So I don't know, but
Doesn't hurt him.
yeah, and well, he's got a lot of them. So March 22nd, I also attended the environment meeting, and that is that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Well, on, I think the 15th, I showed up at a futures meeting that was canceled. It was rescheduled and I didn't know about it. On the 16th, I too went to the community healthcare meeting set up by Councillor Christofferson, and I think there's great potential to lobby for services that can enhance the community. And I absolutely am keen on the idea that we do it in a respectful and non-confrontational manner. And I'm absolutely on board with that. On Saturday the 18th, my granddaughter competed in gymnastics. Lost the sport there for a moment in Kamloops, and I think it was an invitational regional. I'm not quite sure how broad it was, but she brought home 2 golds and a silver. This is her first year in competition, first year in gymnastics, so she's done quite well. That afternoon, on the 18th, I too was in the forestry meeting with Minister Thompson, and it was a good meeting, but unfortunately we heard that they weren't about to change any of the appurtenancy clauses which affect us. So nothing is going to really come of that, I don't think, but doesn't stop us from continuing to let them know what our position is. On the 21st, I went to the Country Music Hall of Fame to I was there when Emily Taggart gave dollars to the museum as well as to the Chamber of Commerce. And the mayor was there as well. On the 22nd, I too attended the agricultural workshop. I was there for the whole day. And it gave a lot of insight into provincial watering regs and usage and things that I had no idea about, and I still don't have a great grasp of it, but it did give me a good general idea. I too had been, well, close to the fire, seeing as how the apartment building that I live in is right next to it. And we had a good view for a long time. And we also had no electricity for a day and a half. So it was a bit of a struggle trying to get a shower in the next day with no heat, no lights. Anyways, they came on. Things are fine. Things are back to normal, sort of. It's quite a sight. That one wing is just completely burned out, but we were watching it burn. It wasn't burning fast, but it was just going. It just kept, it's like the little bunny that never stops. It just kept going. It was a scary and unfortunate incident, especially on the banks of Tolko. And I think right now this town seems to be hurting, and yeah, I'm not quite sure what else to say, but it's noticed that it's hurting. That's it for
Thank you.
me.
Councillor Christopherson.
Good, thank you. March 15th, Canada 150 meeting, and we keep emphasizing it's an attitude, and we'd like to get everybody in town eventually thinking how they can look at our nation. It's 150th year. We live in a pretty good country, and I think it's becoming more and more evident that we try to be caring, compassionate, and inclusive, and not shutting people out. The next meeting is tomorrow at 1 p.m. It's been changed to room 3 at the Civic Center, and we have them approximately every 2 weeks. March 16th, we did have the Healthcare Committee meeting, as was mentioned, and the purpose of that is to have input into healthcare issues and look for opportunities to make healthcare even stronger and better in merit, and to be able to present to the community what is happening in healthcare. A lot of times we hear the grumbling and aren't aware of what does actually happen and how difficult it is sometimes to get what we have. The people from Princeton have been very successful down there of bringing some of their issues to the fore, and have made really good progress, and have offered to help us further along. And part of that will be to do a community consultation as to strengths and concerns of healthcare in this issue. And I'm hoping that part of the process can be done before summer starts. March 21st, I went and checked out Gillis House again, and it looks like a pretty good place to live. Not sure when I'll be moving in yet. Did go to the funding announcement at the Hall of Fame with our MLA, and on March 22nd with the Environment Committee meeting. And that was about it. Thank you.
Thank you. On the 16th, I attended the Princeton presentation, which was very good, very, very, very informative. And thank you very much, Councillor Christopherson, for all the work you have done to put that together. And I know that you're going to be able to keep it going, and we're not going to lose that. Job well done. Thank you. I attended the fire, unfortunately, and everybody's mentioned it. I was there during the day, in the evening, and went back on Saturday. I tried to attend as many meetings as I could when the residents were having presentations by Mr. McGowan, who did an outstanding job of all of the rules and regulations that go with that. I know it was a very difficult job for him to stand up there and have to put that information out to those folks, but he did a very good job on our behalf. And so did Fire Chief, and thank you to the firefighters, thank you to the RCMP who were there. They didn't worry about anything. They did what they needed to do to help those folks. And again, the work that we've done here in the office through Ms. Thiessen, Mr. Boven, as far as getting the ESS stuff put together and the length of time they got for those people is just outstanding. So thank you very much for that. I attended the meetings with Tolko, or not with Tolko, but with the minister on, I think it was in the morning, on Saturday morning, it was with the invasive species, then a presentation, 2.2 million, I think that's what it was, that was given to them for the invasive species out at the airport. In the afternoon, we met with him again on the Tolko situation as far as the timber is concerned and the trees. And they may have said to us in that meeting, which, what else could he say to us, that probably isn't going to be changed, but if you walk away from it, it won't be changed. If we continue to put our arguments forward, it may be changed. So we're going to continue to do that. I've talked with the steelworkers because they're very much involved in that, very supportive of it as well on a district level and also on a local level, and they thank us for our participation as far as that goes. So they were two good meetings that we had to have, and we're not going to back off on it as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I think it's the right thing for us to do. I also contacted Tolko to talk to them about it as well and to find out what's happening at the operation. I called Mr. Hoffman, and he hasn't returned the call yet, but that's okay. I'll phone him again. We're not going to back off on that. It's far too important to our community. It's far too important to the operations that are here, and we don't want to have another one shutting down simply because they haven't got enough trees to operate the operations that we have. So we need to continue that argument and putting that forward. I attended the meetings at the Country Music Hall of Fame where they presented the museum with $15,000. They gave money to the Chamber of Commerce. That was a good meeting. I went to the integration and drought management. I found that very, very interesting. A bit of it over my head, but I learned a lot from it, and I think it's important that we learn that kind of stuff, and especially when you start talking about water and the importance of water for us in our community and in the surrounding area. I attended the Tnrd meeting. I sent everybody 2 presentations that were made. I think you should have got them today. Very good. I put our arguments forward to the hospital district that it's very difficult to sit in those meetings and listen to Kamloops getting this and Kamloops getting that and us not getting anything at all. And I think I may have ruffled some feathers, but that's too bad. It's the way it is, and if we don't put our arguments forward in those different venues, then we're not going to be heard, and they need to know that we are important and we can provide some more facilities here in this particular area. I also mentioned that the construction of the emergency room was good, and we appreciate that as well. We also had a Tnrd board meeting where there was the 3 presentations that I mentioned at the earlier meeting, and the board meeting was a good long meeting. It never got over until after 5 o'clock. Attended all the Sens hockey games. Unfortunately, they played 11 absolutely wonderful games, but we got spanked last night 6-2. But we should be very proud of our boys. First time we've made the playoffs, first time in a long time where we've made 2 rounds. The 7 games with Penticton, other than last night, were very entertaining games, and I think we have got a number of our local fans back interested in coming and attending games in the future. So thank you to the Merit Centennials. Thank you for what they've done for our community, and we're looking forward to a new season starting this fall. And I attended a meeting today with MLA Taggart. She presented $10,000 to the Nicola Valley Agri Society to assist them with their work in trying to put together the Agri Society and the racetrack stuff, whatever it is they're doing. And that was good to see because they don't have a lot of dollars, but they're working very hard. Mr. Boven was asked to thank you for all the assistance that you've given them on different properties and what they can do and what they can't do, and being right up front with them is much appreciated, so thank you very much. That's it. That's all there was about it. We now have information items. Is there any one of those items that anyone would like to speak to? Councillor Norgard.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out that there is an error in the minutes for the Social Planning Committee, and we'll address that at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Prowl.
I see there's thank you, Your Worship. I see there was a request under 11.6 from the Cow Trail Classic request for sponsorship. We have given them considerable funds already, but I just, maybe I'll bring it up at the next council if council is interested in maybe a gold sponsor, which is $500. I'm not sure if we have funds left. But anyway, and then the Canadian coasters, that sounds really exciting. And is there any way we can get them to, I don't know, stop in Merritt at the,
They are stopping in Merritt
they are, but I
on July
thought,
the 1st.
but I thought they were just going to be down in Lower Nicola.
No, they're going to be at the park.
They're coming to the park.
Well, I definitely read that wrong.
They're staying overnight at Pioneer Park, but
Then they're
we're
coming
putting all
here.
the cars here.
Perfect, thank you.
It's part of Canada 150.
Councillor Getz.
Yes, just unfortunate that the Merritt Country Run can't go this year, but at least the executive is wise enough to pull the pin rather than getting themselves into a situation where they can't get out of. So it's unfortunate to see it disappear, and hopefully we can see it again. With the 150, last week, Councillor Christopherson made a pledge that he would sing O Canada whenever he could. One other thing I would ask people to do is buy a flag and put it on your house if you can. I've got 2 flags on my house, and I see a lot of people around the community starting to put them up. And I think that's just a real quick way to support the 150 is buy a flag and put it up. And that's kind of what I'll be doing. I mean, I'll sing when I can, but I'll probably just move my mouth, but I really actually won't sing because I can't sing. But yeah, maybe buy a flag and put it up in your yard.
Anything further? Councillor Brown.
There was a statement that I read at the bottom of the Arts Council that was a very encouraging statement, which talked about there seems to be an energy of cooperation and collaboration among many groups in Merritt right now. And I just thought that was a real good, encouraging statement, and it was nice to hear, and I see it as well. They're starting to be in other groups as well, not just with that group, but it's encouraging.
Thank you. Anything further? Terminated. Thank you very much, everybody.
And no CAO
See you
report.
tomorrow night.
Let us be the judge.
Oh, God, no way.
I agree with you, Dave. Let us be the judge.
It's easy to say you're not any good, but
Oh, no, trust me.
Yeah, what all my goodies back?
I'm well aware of how badly I've been.
Show up and kill us.
Now,
Use that one.
Oh, your shot glass? There you go.
Thank you.
I couldn't even get on to the Merritt Wi-Fi site here. Oh, see, it flipped me right out.
You have nothing but trouble with that stupid.
Nothing but trouble. And there it is, Merritt Wi-Fi, and it wouldn't even bring me in.